Welcome to Crochet Basics with Melissa from C. Melissa Craft and a Crafter's Paradise. For all my project patterns, tutorials, tips, and tricks, please visit cmelissacraft.com. For all my project kits and supplies, please visit acraftersparadise.com. This is my method for doing an invisible join and working in my tail at the end of a project or color. I've gotten to the end of my round and now I need to join my working last stitch with my first stitch of the round, because on this pattern I'm going to switch stitches and switch positions of where I start the next round. So I'm going to want to join these two together. The traditional method is to slip stitch into this stitch, cut a tail, and then work it in. I like to do something called an invisible join. So instead of doing the slip stitch, we have the final stitch of our round completed here, and we need to connect into this first stitch of the round. So we're going to cut a tail and pull our loop until that tail comes through the stitch. To join, we are going to insert our hook into this first stitch of the round that we want to join with. And we're going to insert it opposite of how we would for a normal stitch. So a normal stitch, we would insert it into the two loops from the front to the back. This time we're going to insert it through the two loops from the back to the front. Then you're going to put your tail over and pull it through, and we're going to insert our hook into the last stitch worked in between the loops, so where that yarn came out of. Here's where our tail was pulled up through, in between the middle of the stitch, and that's where we want to insert our hook from the underside. So we're going to come in underneath the back loop, yarn over, pull the tail through, and then tighten it up. And now we have this nearly seamless invisible join where you can't really tell on that compared to this corner where that jog is. It just makes your work look a little more neat and consistent. Then I go ahead and work in my tail by weaving it in to the stitches previous, so the last stitches of the round. So I go in between the individual elements of the stitch. So this case it's the back bar, and I'm just gonna pull my tail through there. I'm gonna grab this little bar and I'm going to pull my tail through there. So I'm just weaving it in and incorporating it into my piece to secure it and also to hide it. So I typically go about what would be equivalent to 3 double crochets worth of weaving in. So I've weaved down this stitch, through the tail end, back up the other side. Now I'm going to do the same on this second stitch. Just weave it down one side and down through the legs of the stitch. And this is all, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, just as long as you are working it into these stitches. It helps secure your yarn without having to use a knot. And I've been crocheting for 27 years now, and I've never had an item fall apart, and I've been using this method for most of those years. So we're on our third stitch now of weaving in these ends. And I'm just going to go one more. So now I'm comfortable with that tail security. So I'm going to cut off the remaining piece. And now we have this invisible join. And your tails are worked in.